Hi, friends. This is Carter, and welcome to this episode of Making It Up, my podcast that, I've been doing this for, a few years now. And here, hey, I'll give you some numbers. I got some numbers today. They're not impressive numbers, but I think, you start a podcast and you don't get any followers and you shout out about it and you hope it goes somewhere. But in my case, I just do this because I love it. I don't make any money from it. I lose money from it. It's a labor of love. And I've gotten it into a groove where, I record once a week. My daughter helps me out with some stuff. We distribute it pretty widely and I put it on social media. But for me, it's a mechanism to have engaging and fun conversations that I want to have. And that's a tremendous networking opportunity for me as well. So I'm not trying to say the last thing I'm thinking about is you, the listener, but that is not the driving force. My hope is that listeners get a lot out of this, and I would love to always hear from you if the content isn't doing what you wanted to do, or if you have any suggestions for guests or for the show, you can always email me at carterwilson.com. This is all to say that, when I get my little updates every week from the company that I use that distributes it to all the different podcast platforms, I'm getting like 80 to 100 downloads a week. Sometimes they spike, sometimes they're lower. So we're not talking massive numbers, but I did just get an email that I've cumulatively have reached 10,000 downloads. So I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. 10,000 people or, thousands of listeners have downloaded one or several of my episodes. So that kind of makes it all worthwhile. It's just like, all right, there are some ears out there listening. So I will say, as always, thank you for watching and or listening to this show. Today on the show, I had a content creator. So I had Kyle Prue, who is the author of this book that I'm holding up here, How to Piss Off Men. So my history with Kyle is that I didn't know about him because I'm not huge into TikTok, although I do have my own account and I do scroll. I do like it, but he had never come across my algorithm. But he had a series on TikTok called How to Piss Off Men, which is fucking hysterical. So you should check it out. And one of his first videos immediately got like 5 million views. And then he's like, oh my God, what do I do now? And so he is, he's become very well known on TikTok with 1.5 million followers. And he parlayed that successfully, at least his How to Piss Off Men series on TikTok, into an actual physical print book. And it's with my same publisher. So when Kyle was on tour, I interviewed him at a local bookstore and he was like a celebrity. Like, the event was sold out. He walks in, people are standing and cheering. And I'm like, this never happens for an author. But it was a really cool experience. So he graciously agreed to come on Making It Up. And we had a really cool conversation, a very different conversation than what I normally have. We, a lot about the content community, content creation, about again, I'll say this in the episode, it's January 15th. There's a lot of shit up in the air right now. He's in LA. Fires are raging out there. So there's a lot of uncertainty around that. A lot of uncertainty about the future of TikTok. So when this episode comes out, 4 to 6 weeks from recording date, we might have a lot more clarity around it. But as Kyle kind of states several times in the episode, there's just nothing happening in LA right now because everything's in this holding pattern because nobody really knows what the next few weeks look like in terms of both the fires and if TikTok is going to be banned. So it was a really interesting conversation and very insightful and a lot of peeling back the layers on what it means to be a content creator and to rise to a level of success, and then how to parlay that into other ventures so you're not just wholly reliant on kind of the one mechanism. So that's all these things going on in Kyle's life right now. Folks, you're going to love this one. Thank you, as always, for listening. This is my engaging conversation with Kyle Prue. First off, I know you're in LA, so We're recording on the 15th of January. This won't be out for another month or so, but you are in the thick of it right now in terms of the fires. What's your update?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I think like no one really if you're like outside of Pasadena and Altadena and the Palisades, it's kind of hard to know what to do.
Hmm.
I evacuated for a minute because I like took a long nap, which we're not supposed to do right now because new fires could come at any
That
moment.
that's crazy. Don't
Yeah,
nap. There could be a life-threatening
yeah.
situation.
And so I just woke up and I was like my room smells like oddly like barbecue. And I
Hmm.
was like, I wonder if I can see the Palisades from my roof. So I went up to my roof and I couldn't see the Palisades. And then I turned around and all of West Hollywood was just on fire.
Oh my
And I
God.
was like, I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah. So you're West Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. And then you don't know, like you come back and you're like, because I grew up in LA, so I kind of know a
Yeah.
little bit, but it's much worse now than it was.
Yeah, it feels very kind of like eerie. It kind of has like almost like a beginning of COVID vibe where like no one's
Huh.
really quite sure what to do or
Yeah.
like how long this is gonna last. Um, yeah, I mean it's strange. It's perplexing.
Right.
Yeah, and we're not. They tell us not to breathe outside, which is that's all good.
And then, on the other side of all of that, and this is an issue for everybody, but it's clearly for you as well, um, creating content and going online and doing the stupid things we do feels hard, right? Like,
Yeah,
what do you do? Like, are you creating content right now or
it's weird too because I mean like this episode is probably going to be such a time capsule in a way because
yeah.
uh like we're about to find out if TikTok gets banned in like a
Right.
day
That was
or
the other thing I
two.
was going to talk to you
So
about.
like everything is either fires or like here's how to call your senator and beg.
Or metaphorical fires, right?
Right. So like there's not really like I like anything that you can like everything that I had like planned to talk about or post or like get into has been backburnered, I think extremely,
Yeah.
extremely heavily.
So,
Um
yeah. And for context for the listeners, you've got, 1.5 million or so TikTok followers, so a substantial social media presence. And that, yeah, that very platform is an existential crisis in the United States, at least. And that's, of course, not to say you still can't get on it. And, but the lion's share of people don't even know what VPNs are. And,
yeah. Yeah.
so what happens? And so, is there like, so here's a very ignorant question. Is there like a collection of influencers who have like summits and they discuss such things with one another?
Yeah, not really. I mean, like, I think like when you on TikTok, you have like a friends only feature where you can post videos for friends only. And so
Yeah.
I've been scrolling through a lot of those and it's just people freaking out.
Yeah.
It's people like trying to figure out what their new job is going to be.
Right. Right.
Yeah, like it's interesting too. Like I think like what it means to be a creator online pivoted so hard in the last couple years. You know what I mean? Like it used to be like if you were a creator, you were a YouTube person or a podcaster, and that was like you were like actually putting work into production kind of all the time. And then TikTok emerges kind of as this like fame lottery system
Yeah.
where you can post the right or wrong video from your bed and like immediately become like a household name to
Which is
certain
crazy.
people. It's
Right.
unbelievable. And so like the one thing that I really have come across is that like you never really know who to talk to about anything, and anybody who you do meet who like is like a whatever TikToker, like they're as bewildered as you are by the whole experience.
Right. Like, is there a sense of like, what did I do to deserve this, either good or bad?
Yeah, I think like yes, definitely. I oftentimes think like the first video that I ever posted that went viral, like posted weird. And so I had to take it down and make a new one.
Hmm.
And so the one that I made that was the new one went extremely viral and like changed the course of my life. And the new one was better. And I always think back, I'm like, man, if that first video had posted correctly, I probably wouldn't be here. Like it's just, yeah, it's weird. It's like it really triggers your like multiverse paranoia.
Right,
You're
right.
like in so many different realities. I'm not doing this.
And yeah, right, right. And who knows, maybe that weirdly posted video would have doubled the numbers. You just don't know.
Totally. Yeah.
What was that first video?
The first video I ever made that went viral was I was doing a like almost like a fitness progress thing
Hmm.
where like early TikTok there were a lot of people who were making videos being like I'm becoming the best possible version of myself. And I made one being like I'm becoming a himbo, which is like a really jacked idiot. And
Hmm.
so I was like I'm becoming a himbo like and like made a video about like getting in shape and like destroying my mind. And so that was the first one that ever went viral for me.
Now, a lot of production behind that, or that was just kind of a stream of
No,
consciousness kind
like
of a
yeah,
thing.
like I made it. Yeah, like the early TikTok, or it's still, I guess it is still kind of this way. People don't really do it like this anymore, but like you could like do a lot in the editor there. So I just collected like a ton of B-roll footage and then kind of just like
Hmm.
added music, added voiceover, like I do feel like the first, like the quarantine era, like the 2020 era, where everybody all of a sudden was getting on TikTok, was very like arts and crafts core, you know, like
Right.
everybody was
That's
really
interesting.
like innovating in a lot of ways. I think now we've kind of stripped it back,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, like now it's just like people in front of ring lights with like makeup on being like, your partner is cheating on you, and here's how I know.
Right, right. Well, and now there's so many third-party apps that connect in, and you can do a lot with those third-party that aren't native
Yeah,
within TikTok. But I mean, and so that's the other kind of metaverse thing is that had you, and I don't, when was that first video?
2020.
Yeah, so were COVID not a thing, who
Right,
knows? Who knows if
right.
people would have been paying attention as much? I mean, TikTok, I'm sure, was always destined to take off, because of just the nature of the product. But all the ingredients were there in 2020 for people to be scrolling, right?
Totally. Yeah, it's funny too, like looking back on like tragedies and being like, oh, thank God for that. You know,
Right,
like
right,
being like, oh wow, oh, if
right. I
not
know
for
a lot of
COVID.
people suffered, but this really helped me out.
Yeah. But personally, big ups, you know.
And I don't think people, and you and I had a conversation at the Tattered Cover bookstore, so I know a little bit of your story. So forgive me if I repeat some of the questions, but I don't think a lot of people, especially who are just very casual or even non-surveyors of social media, have an appreciation for like, this is my fucking livelihood. This I make, or part of my livelihood. I make money from this. And I know you also have a YouTube channel and other ventures, and obviously the book that we'll talk about. But it potentially going away is kind of like losing a job.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it kind of feels, yeah, like, you know, like millions of people are getting fired all at once. Um,
Right.
which is like, yeah, it's weird. I mean, like, I think like a lot of people have like looked into how this is going to affect the economy, and the early figures are not great.
Yeah.
I think the thing that TikTok has had for like since its creation that like no other app has is that like TikTok can create a moment in a way that like Reels or YouTube can't.
Right.
Like there's no like, oh, like this is the viral product that we all got off of Reels, because like the thing that TikTok is really good at is grouping videos by like conversation.
Yeah.
You know, so like
You mean
if
algorithmically for the
yeah,
end user, right?
yeah, totally. And I mean, like, I think like I've talked to a lot of Americans who are like, why won't TikTok just sell the algorithm? Like, why won't they just like sell the algorithm, you know, like, or sell the company in America? And what you have to understand is that like the algorithm that TikTok uses is probably the most pivotal. Yeah. It's the most pivotal. I can't even do it now. I can't
It's
do it
like,
within a sentence. It's the most pivotal invention, I would say, of the 21st century.
wow.
Because in the last 4 years, it has completely dominated every single corner of culture.
Yeah.
And I think like that is what they really don't want to give away. And I mean, like, I get it, you know,
Right. That's
like,
the value of the company.
yeah, I mean, if I had the like culture controlling device, I probably, yeah, wouldn't, you know, wouldn't
Right.
sell it for almost anything.
Right. And as you, so I want to kind of walk through just kind of your progression of this, because you alluded to the fact that you've talking to other content creators who are just like, no one knows like why something hits and something doesn't hit, but when it hits for you and it continues to hit for you and you get this massive base, it becomes a real thing that you need to then say, this is part of my life now and I'm making money from this. But all along you must in your mind think, well, whatever TikTok looks like today, it's not going to look like next year or 5 years from now
Totally.
or 10 years from now, not even knowing anything about potential bans or anything. So are you thinking the whole time like, okay, I want to lean into this, but what's my backup plan, or how do I expand this universe to not just be reliant on this one thing?
Totally. Yes, absolutely. I talked to a podcaster yesterday who's been in the game for 15 years.
Okay, a long time.
Um, and it was interesting talking to him because like I never planned to be a content creator. Like I was one of the people who they were like, you go ahead. And
Oh,
like
weird.
I went to acting school, and like at the beginning of the whole like internet thing, I was like, fuck, this isn't gonna work. You know what I mean? Like this is a bad idea. Like this is gonna sort of sabotage my kind of like other, whatever, creative like leanings.
Right.
But I think like one of the like really interesting things that I got from the guy I met with yesterday is he was telling me like uh people come and go, you know what I mean? And platforms come and go, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like TikTok created thousands of, internet famous content creators. And in a few years, only a few of them will be left,
Right.
because it is a hard thing and you do need to be extremely mobile. You know what I mean? I keep saying, you know what I mean? You have to be able to pivot.
Yeah.
And so what everyone I think is looking for is longevity. And I think longevity comes through slower media.
Yeah.
Um, because I do very well on TikTok and I do very well on Reels. But those are 11-second videos. They're not really inherently monetizable, and they don't create like lasting, deep partnership. I
Yeah.
think in the way that like a podcast or a show, like something longer does,
Right.
because people share this 11 seconds with you and they're like, that was lovely, but then
Right.
you're gone. You know what I mean?
Right. Do you, is there a thing? So from the thriller writer universe, obviously you have collections of friends, colleagues, you network. And then there's the sense sometimes you'll read somebody else's book and you're like, why the fuck was this a bestseller?
Mhm.
The bar is a little bit lower with social media where kind of anyone can put something on, but there are a lot of people, including yourself, who really are thoughtful and take the time about the production and about how it's going to hit, and it's not just throwing something up necessarily. Do you look at other ones that did like the Hawk Tuah girl and be like, why the fuck? Like,
Yeah, sometimes. Like yeah, it's weird. You see people kind of blow up out of nowhere. And yeah, you do have questions about it. You're like, why is this the thing that is, consuming American culture at the moment?
right,
Um, However, I think what it is ultimately at the end of the day is your work can't just be good and palatable.
right,
I think like if you make content that is like good and all right, I think that is what it is. People like it and they scroll. But likes don't inherently really have any juice within the algorithm.
yeah,
What really has juice is comments and shares,
huh,
because that's how they're
uh-huh.
tracking that something is conversation worthy.
Right,
And so what I realized at a certain point in my sort of journey was that my work needed to be good, but it also needed to generate as many questions as it did answers.
oh, it's interesting,
And so I think the things that go extremely viral are things that like are like, you know what I mean, like good serviceable content, but like something's happening way off in the background and people are like, what the fuck is that?
yeah, yeah,
Like we had this extremely viral moment, which was I don't know. I don't know if you saw this, and it's hell taking something offline and like talking to a person in the real world and being like, "Do you know about Couch Guy? But do you know about Couch Guy?"
I don't know about Couch Guy.
So Couch Guy is this video where this girl is surprising her long distance boyfriend at college.
Hmm.
Okay, and so she's got this on video, and she comes into his kind of like dorm where he's hanging out with a bunch of his friends, and he sees her and he's sitting next to two girls on the couch, and the vibe is a little not super excited to see her,
Uh-huh.
like, and
Right.
he's like, oh, what the hell, hey, like, and gives
Yeah.
her a hug, and it seems like his friends in the room are a little bit like, huh. And so the immediate discourse that comes is like women being like, this man is cheating on you,
Right. Totally.
like look at his friends, like that's how you know.
Right.
And then once that conversation starts to get large enough, it becomes a conversation about like, you don't fucking know these people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how
Yeah.
dare you, like,
Right.
cast aspersions on a relationship you have no part. And like, it starts to steamroll into a cultural moment because it's all about the conversation.
Right. It no longer has anything to do with the video at some point.
And at some point, it's like, should we be weighing in on, like
Right.
other people's relationships that we see for 8 seconds?
Right.
And I think like that's the real secret recipe behind viral content. And I think the time when I started going extremely viral was when like started like doing really weird stuff with my intonation. Like I started to become extremely monotone and I didn't blink in any of my videos. And people were like, oh, like great content. There's something off about this guy. Like
Right.
there was kind of a developing conversation about like what this persona was, like if this was like real
Right.
and it wasn't.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of been the that's at least in my mind what works.
But in that specific case, the monotone, non-blinking case, was that you sitting on the couch saying, "Hey, it'd be funny if I did this," or is that you saying exactly what you just told to me? This is going to get conversation going.
I think a combination,
Yeah.
and like this is when I started doing How to Piss Off Men.
Yeah.
And so like when I started doing How to Piss Off Men, I was interested like what kind of energy I wanted to take into that.
Right.
And like what I eventually settled on was kind of this almost like, yeah, like deadpan kind of
Right.
like,
Like you are AI in a way.
yeah, almost like Machiavellian,
Yeah.
little creep.
Right.
And that is that so that's it came out of I think like being like I know that this will generate conversation. And I had been doing the monotone thing for kind of a while because I had always had more of an interest in like drier
Yeah.
comedy.
Right. Right.
But that was when I was like, let me kick this into high gear. And I started doing kind of like a specific voice and I didn't blink. And like um yeah, like I got like a lot of conversation just surrounding like who is this?
Right,
Like
right. And just kind of segueing to How to Piss Off Men, because that's how you and I got to know each other doing your book launch. The idea of it, just the title of it, and which is all people get initially, right? That's all they
mhm,
know is like, and that a man is doing it immediately makes one think like, okay, what kind of person is doing
totally.
this? And I don't think an easy answer comes to mind. So that lets you kind of create whatever persona you want. And that kind of makes sense, just having this almost like Machiavellian attitude about it. Like,
Totally.
oh, okay, he's trying to truly fuck over other men. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think like one of the things because like you have mere moments once your viral moment starts, like I had the first video come out and it got like 5 million views and I posted the second one and it got 10 million views.
That's
And
insane.
you have like, in publishing, like as you know, it's a decades business.
Right.
You know what I
Totally.
mean? Like you'll
Yeah.
be talking to your publisher and they'll be like, "Yeah, we're going to come out in 2028." And you're like,
Right.
"2028?" And like they're not on a clock because they've existed for thousands of years,
Right.
or
Right.
and so maybe not thousands, but a lot. And the issue with or not the issue, but the name of the game with content is it's a minute to minute business.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when I made the first two videos, I was like, okay, I have to figure out what my perspective is going to be on this series, and I have to post a new one like tomorrow.
Right.
And so there were so many guys on TikTok who would do this thing where they had very much this energy of like, it's me and all the ladies, like, hey girls, like it's just us, like I'm like the only living good man. And I did not want to do that. Like I
Right.
was like, this is not maybe the energy I want to bring into this,
Right.
because those guys kind of give me a little bit
It's
of
a
like
douchey
a,
vibe.
yeah, it's creepy, you know?
Yeah.
And so like what I wanted to do more was that like a lot of these things had been tried on me. You
Yeah.
know, like it
Right.
like more
Make
that it
yourself
was
the butt
like,
of the joke.
yeah, like it wasn't like it's me and all the women. It was it's me and all the men and we're all in hell. Uh,
Right.
and I'm glad that that was the decision I made in like the 2 minutes I had to pick one.
But yeah, that's right, because you put something up with zero expectation,
Mhm.
even in the sense of like, oh my God, can you imagine if I got 20,000 views? That would be crazy. And all of a sudden there's 5 million.
Yeah,
And it is like, okay, I can't just disappear now. I can't just look at this casually now.
yeah.
I got to commit to this. How do I do that? And then is there a certain point where you're even thinking like, all right, this is my shot, and how do I not fuck this up? And not no, you don't know. Like all your answers to me sound so much more thoughtful than mine would have been. I would have been like, who can I immediately hire to tell me what to do?
Totally. Well, and that's the thing that I think people don't understand is that like when you like really blow up for the first time, more than likely there is no team. There is
Right,
no one you can talk to who understands what you do.
right,
And at the same time, you're appearing at the center of what is usually kind of a national conversation, and like you just have to make the right call,
right,
and it's
right,
like, because what you really don't want, and this happens sometimes, is you hit your big moment and then you make the wrong call. And then the conversation becomes like, man, fuck that guy.
right,
And then you have no institutional power or money, and and you just kind of spin out in front of a lot of people.
right. That feels very
Like,
Matt Rifey kind of.
totally, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think like Matt Rife was lucky in the sense where like he made like $20 million before he crashed out.
Yeah, well, right, right. So
Like you see some people who like they're like, oh, this is our internet person of the day, and then like 3 days in, they make the wrong joke or they pivot in the wrong direction, and
right,
people are like,
or
oh,
somebody digs up something on.
oh yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, and
totally.
you've probably gone through that. I don't know, but like once you get to a certain level of recognition, especially digital recognition, there's so many people are constantly digging to see like,
Totally.
because my
Yeah.
content is going to be about fucking your life up because you're,
Yeah.
and how do you deal with that?
Well, luckily, I am lucky in the sense where like I was never, I think like I never really had any like problematic opinions.
Yeah,
My issue is that I'm a theater kid, so
yeah,
like I was just cringe. So you know what
yeah.
I mean? Like it's like
Right,
someone will pull up a video and they're like, "Is this you in Newsies?" And I'm like,
right.
"Yeah."
But you're the personality who would own that.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. And if anything ever did come out, I'd be like, I'm sorry, I was 12. Like I
Right,
scrolled back to the very start of my Twitter because there was a time when they were like, we were digging through old tweets. This is a thing
right.
that happens very consistently, is that like someone will make it big and then someone will find tweets from the very, and so like I was like scrolling at the beginning of my Twitter because I was like, I think I'm good, but let me just
Right.
check this out.
I never
And
mentioned
I
the
go,
Hitler Youth or anything.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I go back, and all my first five tweets are literally me being like, "Hello, Twitter. I am tweeting."
Right,
Like,
right,
and I was
right.
like, "Oh, thank God!" Like,
Yeah,
I
you're
was
just an
just
idiot. You're not
just like
toxic.
nerdy and awkward. Yeah,
Right,
like, and I was never like, I luckily I was never one of those like, I was never one of those young people who like had opinions. I feel like like I was pretty off the internet, and like now, especially with how to piss off men, I get all these 12-year-olds who are like, die Trump forever, and I'm like,
how is
how
that relevant to anything?
well, but I'm also, yeah, 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 they're like we hate you, like you can go die, like Trump forever, 2024, 2028, like, and I'm like, how do you have political opinions when you're 12?
Right,
Like it's so
right.
I think it's so interesting that like the way the internet is now, we've convinced everybody that like even like children, like you need to have a political leaning and
Huh.
feeling. Like when I was 12, I was just like, I don't know, like whatever, like running around,
Right, right.
like
I was outside breathing fresh air.
yeah, I was just getting beat up a lot, like I
But
wasn't like
it is that so that's an interesting kind of conversation is, the ignorance and jumping to conclusions based on the title of something, perhaps like without.
totally.
So, I look at, your content and your book, and the name is How to Piss Off Men. And you start digging into it, and you very much get the sense that it's very self effacing. This happened to me. This is
Yeah.
hysterical. And it's just all humor based. There's no political leanings in it at all. But I could also see completely stupid people saying How to Piss Off Men. That sounds very woke to me.
Totally.
And so you've obviously suffered the slings and arrows of that as well.
Totally, yeah, yeah. I think like the thing about How to Piss Off Men is that like this is the only time I'll probably ever do anything like this, but the title of the book is the pitch.
Right,
You
right,
know?
right.
Like I'm
There's
sure
no nuance to it.
like when you are going out and you're like selling a book or whatever, you have your title, but your title is sort of like it builds intrigue, but
Right.
you have to be like it's about,
Here's the hook.
blank.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like there's no hook. You know what I mean? Like the title is the hook. Like
Yeah.
it is an advice book about how to piss off men. And there was this thing that had happened, like, I don't know if we talked about it like during tour, but like the first week we got like 15 million views on TikTok on like just like women book talk, videos or
Yeah.
whatever. And so sales like skyrocketed. And I was like, great, this is awesome. Like, this is so wonderful that this like word of mouth is coming through. And then it tipped over into like incel TikTok, which,
Oh, right. Right.
yeah, like young, angry men. And those videos started getting millions and millions and millions of views. And in my mind, I was like, well, that's great. You know what I mean? Because that's controversy. And like
Right.
controversy is what takes you to the moon. Like, I hope this gets on Fox News. I
Right.
hope
Hope it gets
you
banned.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And so like I go to check my Amazon rankings after this starts going viral on all these kind of like incel pages, and it doesn't go up at all.
Huh.
Like there's not even a little bit of a spike in a way
Yeah.
that like when it was going viral on Book Talk, it was having quite a spike.
Right.
And I realized I was like, oh, they're not even like reading the book. They're taking like 2 or 3 pages that are like from like the Amazon sample or something
Right.
and like talking shit about it. And like I was like it made me like really realize how insular that echo chamber is.
Mm-hmm.
Like these people are making videos that are getting millions of views, and it's resulting in zero sales and zero conversation outside of like that little, room. Which was
Yeah.
like the most disappointing thing to me was that I was like, I wanted people to get angry about it nationally. And it
Right.
ended up being like something that like, yeah, like 15-year-olds were mad about.
Right, right. It's like living in the universe of like a Halo 2 conversation.
Totally. Dude. And like the thing too is like, like gone are the days of like, like NWA,
Yeah,
people
yeah,
would
yeah.
buy their albums just to burn them.
Yep,
And they
yep.
were like, great, people are buying the albums. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like people like nobody's buying my book to burn it. And I wish they would, you know?
I mean, do you get a sense that the book, I could see the book being, especially when it's being discussed by, you said it got a lot of hits with female TikTokers, buying it as gifts for their friends and things like that. I could
Totally.
definitely see a lot of sales there.
Totally. Yeah. That was kind of our big, like, that's why we came out when we did, because we wanted it to have like a little bit of a notoriety leading up to Christmas.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, I mean, like it's interesting now because the book is sort of like, I don't think it's controversial in its content, but I think it is controversial like in its title.
Right.
And so like every once in a while I will be scrolling or on some app or something, and I will see something about it,
Yeah.
independently.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, yeah, I had wanted it to be like a thing where, like I had wanted Fox News to be like to like put a hit out on me or something, but
Right.
unfortunately
It
it
didn't
never
quite
came
go that
through.
far.
Yeah.
But that was clearly a decision of yours, and maybe the publisher had reached out to you, or maybe you were already thinking about it, but a way to again diversify so you're not feeling like everything has to be monetized through social media channels. I can do other things that my name brings something. I interviewed a writer who was doing she was just creating little stories on TikTok that fill fantasy stories, and then she wrote a book and New York Times
Yeah.
bestseller because you have that built-in base. So are you thinking now about like, okay, I mean, how far in advance can you even plan because everything's changing so quickly?
Totally. I mean, it's interesting. In my experience, like LA this week is paralyzed.
Yeah.
Like because of the fires and because nobody knows what's happening with TikTok. Like there's zero conversations happening in the creator industry. Like there's zero conversations happening in entertainment because everybody is kind of like waiting. Like in the next week, we're gonna know a lot more about both those things.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think like one of the things that I knew early on, and it's the reason I wanted to get How to Piss Off Men into a like tangible thing,
Yeah.
like off the internet and into a book, was because like I think if you are I don't know what the right term here is, it's a little naive to think that platform is power,
Yeah.
even though it feels like power. You know what I mean? Like you gain a certain amount of followers, and it does come with this sort of element of like I'm a little bit more protected now. You know what I mean? Like I have people who are sort of like in my corner, ready to ride for me. It means I can like transition easier into traditional media or whatever. But the entire time that I was on TikTok, I had this awareness that it could be taken away at any minute.
Hmm.
That
Well,
like
that's good.
my account could get banned, the
Right.
platform could get banned, like something could happen and it could all go away.
Yeah.
Because if you have like TikTok and that's your thing, you have one really strong leg to stand on. But you need more than one leg, you
Right.
know?
Right. Right.
And so, yeah, and also at the beginning of TikTok, I had a lot of run-ins with community guidelines violations. I was
Oh,
very like scrappy in the beginning of TikTok. I
huh.
I used to do this thing where I was working on a film and they kept like giving me like gore makeup or like my character got murdered. So I had a
Yeah.
bunch of, like I had like slash wounds or whatever.
Right.
And so what I would do is I would make a video where I like look extremely pale and sweaty because my character's bleeding out. And so I would just make a video and I'd be like, "Hey, does anybody know like how much blood you have to lose before you like have to go to the hospital? Like please respond quickly. This is time sensitive." And so like I was kind of like faking my death like once a week for like months. And like I kept getting stuff from TikTok being like, you have to stop doing this. Like
Wow.
we will ban you. And I was like, all right, all right.
Well, at least they
Um,
gave you warnings.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I got strikes. And so like I think like yeah, like with any platform, or the same thing happened too where like I were like rectifying this, but we had a minute where like YouTube was like, "Hey, you can't monetize your content anymore. Like we're banning your ability to monetize your content."
Hmm.
And that was because I had made these commercials and they had thought that I hadn't made like they were like, "You're reposting commercials," but I was like, I made them.
It's
Like they're
original
mine.
content. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so like but like if I like had reached out to YouTube and they had been like, nah, never mind, sorry, the thing stands. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you have to be able to uh have something else in the fire, like have
Yeah.
some other kind of stability because these platforms will wrong you.
Right. Yeah.
And
Totally.
even if you have millions of followers, you say to yourself, like, well, they'd never get rid of me because I have millions of followers, I have millions of fans.
Yeah.
And yeah, but so do a lot of people,
Right. Right. So then you start asking yourself, okay, how do I take this base of people and carry them wherever I want to carry them? Which
Totally.
is,
And
which is,
not in a self-effacing way, but if like I got banned from TikTok, like they would see a like a non-difference in like the day-to-day health of the platform. You know what I mean? Like
right.
not like I am not essential to the bottom line,
Right.
over there.
Right. Right.
And so I think it's just good to recognize that kind of across the board.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Well, Kyle, we're going to wrap up. Before we do, if you're up for it, we're going to do the traditional storytelling part of the show where we make up a
Yes.
quick short story. I have two books here, and I'm going to ask you to choose one of them. We're going to choose a random sentence from a random page. I'm going to read that sentence, and then that'll be the first sentence in like a 2-minute long short story. So I'll read that sentence. You give me the next sentence or two. I'll do a sentence or two. It'll be a shit show, and then I'll kill it. So these are actually both arcs, so they haven't come out yet. No Lie Lasts Forever. Mark Stevens, a buddy of mine here in Colorado. And then Matt Goldman's The Murder Show. So both mysteries. Choose one of those.
Let's go with The Murder Show.
Give me a page between 1 and 292.
161.
All right, I'm going to quickly scan page 161 for a good sentence. Let's see. All right, I am just going to read this and you do whatever you want with it.
Okay.
So the character's name is Ro, R-O. And she's apparently, or he or she is getting into a canoe. Ro has canoed recently, so she takes the stern.
Kind of ironic, she thinks, that my name is Ro and I'm about to row.
Ethan called out from behind her. I can tell you're thinking weird things. Don't get distracted. She's drowning. We have to get to her.
I know she's drowning, Rose says. I can see. But you have to concede that this is a little ironic.
Maybe your parents knew that you were going to be made just for this situation when they got pregnant with you.
Ro smiles to herself and thinks, yes, this is what I am alive for, and begins to haul ass.
That's it, Ethan calls out. On my count, row, row, row the boat.
What?
And they went. I think we call it there. That is a shit show. It's funny. I looked at that sentence and I'm like, and I know Matt Goldman, and I'm like, did he know that he was going to be writing a scene involving a woman named Ro in a canoe?
So funny. It's funny too, because like the minute I like realized that, I was like, I was like, this is not going to be good story.
No, but you can't ignore it.
But it's where I got to dive in.
So now you're just kind of in a holding pattern for the next couple of weeks.
Totally, yeah. I mean, I'll make my goodbye TikTok. Everyone's doing that. Everyone's doing their like, hey, so long. This was fun. I'll be checking from my roof to see if anything else catches on fire. But yeah, holding pretty much steady from here on.
Well, best of luck. I hope everything falls in your favor, and certainly first and foremost, that your physical safety and the safety of your friends and loved ones in Los Angeles is assured.
Yes, everyone's good, luckily.
We're all thinking of you out there, and good to see you again, brother, and I hope to chat again soon.
Thanks for having me, dude.
All right,
talk
see you
soon.
Bye.
See ya.
So that's it. That is my conversation with Kyle Prue. We even did a little storytelling at the end, a little canoe storytelling that became a flaming disaster very, very quickly, but it was perfect. It was perfect. You can find him anywhere on social media, Kyle Prue, Prue. If TikTok is still around when this comes out, then that's probably where you'll find him the most. So definitely check him out, and then hop on over to carterwilson.com. You can check out my events, buy my new book, Tell Me What You Did, sign up for my newsletter, all sorts of stuff. And you can hop on over to unboundwriter.com. That's unboundwriter.com, where you can learn about my coaching services, one-on-one coaching, online classes, and retreats and writing seminars. That's it, friends. That is it for this episode of Making It Up. Another episode out just next week. Thank you, as always, for watching and or listening. And until we see each other again, take care.